Okay, actually, I figure while we're waiting on the dry wash or the wash, the dry wash, that's not a thing. The wash on our bow and arrow shafts to dry. What we can do is go ahead and paint the base of the mini, which, if you look at the pictures, he's standing on a field of grass, beautiful, lush green grass. So we're getting our Naga green out and shaking that like there's no tomorrow. I'm going to hope and pray. Got a good thick drop of paint, not watery. Make sure that we got all of that harvest brown out of our flat brush. Dab a couple times, just make sure, because this is a very textured surface down here. So you really don't want to glob on paint all over the place and take away the texture that we have down here. I'm going to hit the edges. Just kind of having my brush sit halfway on the top and on the side. Just kind of paint that corner evenly. Might get some paint on your poster putty, which is totally okay. I am giving my feet some room just because I'm going to go with the detail brush and really make sure that I get around. I'm kind of worried the way the paint's going on that I didn't shake it up quite enough, but that's okay. Because if it ends up looking poopy, go back. Yep, I'm going to get a bit more paint. Shake it up really good. I'd like to get one more drop. Not sure what is happening. Shake it up one more time, a little bit more. There we go. It's got a good viscosity to it. Looks a bit better than what we were working with initially. Let's see how this looks when we paint it on. Much better, but I got way too much paint. So I'm going to get rid of most of the paint on here and start spreading around the love of that paint that I put way too much of it on. And like I said, giving the feet a wide berth. Sorry. I don't want to give this skeleton green foot. Not even sure that's a disease. But if it is, I don't want to give it to my skeleton. Dab, dab. See, if you see right there in the middle, I got a whole lot of paint on there right now. So I'm going to wipe my brush clean, or as clean as I can, and go in there. Just start pushing that paint around. Pushing right up to the feet. Now is as good a time as any to hop on my detail brush. And I'm not even going to get any paint on it, I don't think. I'm just going to try spreading the love around a bit. I think I used the plastic cover for my flat brush on my detail brush, because that seemed way too small to fit on there. Yes, indeed. Okay. So grab my detail brush, and I'm just going to use it to push the paint in. And then once I have some paint on there, really get around the edges of those feet. Did not hit the edge underneath this foot, so I am going to get some paint. Okay, now this is just trying to hit a Zen-like zone because this foot is overlapping the edge, but you don't want it to look like you just ignored that part of the base because like, oh, I don't want to get foot on that or paint on that foot. But fear has no place in the painting of miniatures because every mistake can be fixed. There's no reason to fear messing up a little. Okay, so looking around, I got a couple little corners. Dab some of the paint off there. I can hit with the green. Just taking a look real quick just to see, because the way this mold is, it's hard to tell where the foot was intended to begin, or it looks like it kind of should begin on the mini. Because I got a little heavy-handed with the paint when I was painting his feet. Just going in, touching up as best I can. I'm really happy with that. I think it looks good. Oh, I got a little bit of the side underneath his foot. Man, this is just a pain in the bootay. But, I said before, details are where we are going to shine. Sorry, I'm not painting on camera again because I'm awful. So yeah, got a good base coat on here. I'm going to go over a couple areas where I feel like the paint was just a bit thin when we first started off painting the front of this, just to make sure I have good coverage because I don't want it to seem like a thinly painted base. Want it to, by the end, look like a rich, lush patch of grass. Oh no. Let's see what we can do there. I'm gonna get the. Let's see if there's any way. I can at least dilute it enough to where actually, you know what? I'm gonna grab a napkin, tear off a piece, see if we can't dab off the rest of that green. I totally made this mistake just so I could show you all how to address these things, right? You believe me, right? Right? Well, you know what? Let's do this. Still got our Harvest Brown wash here. So come in. Actually, no. It's a bad idea. Don't want to panic. So, trying to dab it off didn't work. So, we're going to go back to our leather brown. All of our little dots on here have dried. Cannot wait to show you all how to make a dry palette. But, little baby dot. Grab my brush. Just come in. Got a bit too much paint. This is almost mimicking dry brushing. We just want enough to cover up our boo-boo. Looking good. Now I'm going to come in with a dry brush, take some of that paint off. Because once again, don't want to cover up those great details that we have in the wood going on. Green's starting to come through just a little bit. So you get a little bit of paint on there and just blot it over. And you know, we're going to rewash this section once it dries. Then we got our dry brush base and our dry brush highlight. So hopefully by the end of things, you'll never even know that happened. But I am happy with the way the base turned out, aside from my little detour onto the bow. Didn't really get any on the feet, which is a miracle. So yeah, happy with how that looks. And with the exception of our little section here, which is already pretty well dry, which is wonderful. So I'm going to grab some of my Harvest Brown wash, just hit it. And then let that wash do its work, giving us that rich textured look, because I do like the way it looks down here on the bottom of the bow. It really did give another dimension to the wood. So yeah, but it is still a very distinct color from the leather brown. I know, ironically, the base color is leather brown for the bow, but the actual leather that we're going for with the quiver, the wood does have a distinct look, a much lighter, natural-looking brown as opposed to the leather on the quiver. And you can really see that with the difference between the shafts and the quiver itself. So yeah. We have a little bit of green showing through still, but I'm not going to stress about it. You know, we're going to dry brush, and I'll do my best to hit that spot with some dry brushing to really accentuate the brown, because it's time for our base color dry brushing, which we want to make sure our brush A has no more wash in it, because we did just wash. See, boom, all that wash is coming out. Okay, so now we're going to take our leather brown that we pulled out for fixing our boo-boo, get some on the tip. My brush, the way it's spreading like that, seems pretty wet. So I'm going to dry it off, make sure it's good and dry, and get a little bit more paint on there. Okay, and now we're going to dry brush our base color kind of all over, because once again, we're wanting the little indentions they gave us for the wood of the bow to really be where that Harvest Brown wash lives. We want the surface of the bow to pop. So yeah, we're just hitting every inch of the bow with this, just to try and get the surface back to neutral, which will in turn make our Harvest Brown wash pop that much more. I always forget that I want to dab the tip of the brush, because you do have some paint on there, and you don't want to all of a sudden have this glob of just base paint covering up your shading. This is just a very zen-like activity, which is a lot of fun. I'm enjoying doing this with you all. I hope you're enjoying it too, in spite of the fact that I keep painting off camera. I get quiet for long periods of time. Okay, so that is the base color on the Mini. Just to make those indentions really pop with the wash. So now we're going to do our dry brush highlight. Get our paint out of the brush. And our highlight, if you remember correctly, we're mixing some paint together. We're going to do leather brown and desert sand. The ratio is going to be 2 to 1. 2 of which one is the question? I believe it's 2 leather brown to 1 desert sand, just because we're going 1 shade lighter. Yep. So 2 drops of leather brown. It's 1 drop, 2 drop, and 1 drop of desert sand. And do our best to try to hit the middle of our drop of leather brown, or 2 drops of leather brown here, just so it's easier to mix. Okay. Our 1 drop in the middle. We're going to gently, because we don't want to mess up the bristles of our brush, give it just a little bit of a lighter shade. Looks good. I'm going to get some of the paint off my brush and then hit the paper towel to get it dry brush ready. Just hitting it with that desert sand leather brown mix. Just really add another dimension to the wood of the bow. Because it's far too easy for wood to just come across as this drab brown thing. But by doing this, you're going to add a good amount of dimension to it, like natural wood has. Once again, details. That's what we're going for. There's little things that even experienced miniature painters will look at what you're doing and go, wow, that is good, especially for a newbie. Okay. Oh, and lest we forget to hit the arrow shafts, I think I forgot to hit those with my base color dry brush, but I did not heavily wash them either. So I'm just going to go in, hit them a couple passes just to make the arrow shafts distinct, make it easy from a distance to spot, oh, it's a shaft. It's a bunch of arrow shafts in a quiver. Okay, so that is the bow and arrow shafts completed. And I mean, in product, I think we got a good mini going here. Between what we accomplished with the quiver and the strap and the bow being 2 very distinct shades of brown, having very distinct looks to them. Also, importantly, because you don't want your wood and your leather to look identical. Then you just painted 2 things brown, and that's not interesting. But yeah, I am just really digging the way this is starting to look. So next up is the wash for the grass, which we are going to be doing. We're going to be using the pure black wash again. So we've got our pure black still out. Badoom. So shake this up real good. And I'm just going to occupy the same space on my palette that my previous pure black wash did, just because. Here's our one drop pure black. I really am going to attempt to keep it to 4 drops, like they said, even though pretty much every wash we've done up to this point, I have questioned them and thought, this still seems really too thick. It doesn't have the transparency I want. Still too opaque. But this is just the ground area, so I'm going to go with them, see what it does, if it just paints over the green, or if we get a really good shadow. Because, yeah, I did 4 drops of water. You all saw me, but this still seems very intense. But we're going for it. Because worst case scenario, we get to paint some more. And that's why we're here, to paint. So why would you complain about getting to go back and paint something again? If you don't want to paint, pick a new hobby. And this seems like a really intense black, like we're muddling up this lush green color that we had. But I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to let it dry. I'm going to see how it looks after it's dried and see if we have a good, if this wash really drops into those recesses and the cracks, or if it ends up just making everything seem muddled and dark and crappy. But at the same time, we can't really judge it until we've gone back to dry brush our base color and our highlight. So what we're going to do with the grass is follow these instructions to a T and see how it looks in the end. Because, I mean, that it doesn't look terrible. I mean, it is still very wet, so I need to wait and see how it looks. But being perfectly honest right now, I don't have high hopes. I get the sense that we're going to get to paint some more. But who am I? This is my first miniature that I'm painting with any sort of seriousness, so I may be a complete doofus. So that's what we got after applying the wash to our ground area. So yeah, we are going to let that dry and then return. Probably going to have a different shirt on when I return because it's getting late once again. But yeah, I'm super happy with how this whole thing is turning out thus far. It's turning out far better than I thought it was going to when we did the outset, and yours looks even better than mine. So I'm happy that we're doing this together. Okay, well, I will see you all when I have a new shirt on. All right, everybody. Well, that is the latest episode where we got the bow and arrow shafts dry brushed, and we also managed to get started on our grass base by getting the base coat and the wash on there. We got one more episode to go. We only got a few more details to hit, and then we are done with our first mini, and then we can get started on the next one. But I am really enjoying this series, and I will see you next time.